New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. What if you had a place to return to every day for peace, clarity, and connection? The New Thought Ministry of Prayer offers live morning and evening prayer, along with a growing library you can access anytime. This is a space for reflection, renewal, and real spiritual practice, rooted in the understanding that something greater is already alive within you. You are welcome here. Join us live or watch anytime. The New Thought Ministry of Prayer, part of the New Thought Media Network. Come, take a moment for what matters most. New Thought Media Network proudly presents the Science of Mind Saturday Conversations. Learn more about the Science of Mind philosophy, faith, and way of life. Join our team of experts for a weekly deep dive discussion. Come study the science of mind, chapter by chapter, and resources from the Science of Mind archives. Plan to join us every Saturday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, only on the New Thought Media Network.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I don't know what it is about the theme music for this show and almost every show on the New Thought Media Network, but it's my 2 minutes of exercise to get my energy pumping by dancing to the music. And so I hope it does the same for you. Welcome to Saturday morning Science of Mind conversations. And my name is Dr. Tracy Brown. I am so happy to welcome you to the network and to the show today. And if you want to be like Wayne, then say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from and get your fingers warmed up, because as we go through the content today, I want to welcome you or invite you to be sure to put in the chat or in the comments, depending on which platform you're on, your questions or your examples, or just how what we're sharing together is resonating with you. So we've got Wayne in the house. We've got Shay in the house. Good morning. Good morning. And I can see a few others of you on different platforms. No requirement to say good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, but you're welcome to. So As you may know, in on the Saturday morning Science of Mind conversations during the first 7-ish months, 7 to 7.5 months of the year, we go through the Science of Mind textbook chapter by chapter. And it's so great because we get to see the arc of when Ernest Holmes was writing the book and putting it together, how everything fits, like how this section leads to this section, and then that wisdom supports new wisdom, the next wisdom shared. And once we've gone through the majority of the book, we don't go through the meditations and, what is, and the glossary and all of that. But once we've gone through the content, in August, we began looking for how is science of mind um, captured, archived in the Science of Mind library and archives, and what are some of the articles or books or audio recordings that we can share with you to continue our journey together in diving into what the meaning is of the philosophy of the science of mind. And so it's my pleasure today to go back 50 years. 50 years ago today, what was the daily devotion or the daily guide in the Science of Mind magazine for August 22nd, 1976? And every now and then, that's what I'll do. I'll go in there, whatever the day is or whatever the month is, I may go back and look at that issue of the magazine and see what were the key articles that month. And then sometimes I'll just look at a specific day and use the devotion or the guide for that day as my devotion for the day. And that's what we're going to do together. So, the Science of Mind August 1976 issue looked like this. Very different from how the magazine looks today, right? And the three lead articles were The Great Adventure, Leave Me Alone, What is Mysticism? And the article on, excuse me, the article Leave Me Alone, I found really interesting, even though that's not the one I'm going to highlight today. But I found it really interesting because what it talked about was how when the author moved to a new city, she felt like, she moved from a small town to a large city, and she felt like she wasn't really seen and she didn't like it at all. And she very quickly became super homesick and for where she had grown up and moved from. And then she went to a church more out of like, I need to have something to do. And she went to a church, and the message that day was love thy neighbor as thyself. But the preacher, the teacher, the speaker focused on the as thyself part instead of love your neighbor. Like, we all can love our neighbor, but are you loving your neighbor the way you love yourself? And she realized that because she was in a new place, that she was doubting herself. She was in a new place and she didn't know anyone. And she was really like kind of, she was afraid. And so she would be like, leave me alone, because she didn't know who she could trust. And that it was no surprise that she wasn't loving herself and giving herself an opportunity to really meet people and as meet them in a positive way. She was very fearful that people were going to, mistreat her or hurt her, and they definitely weren't going to like her. And that day, even before she left the church, she began to do new behaviors like look at people and smile at them and compliment them on something real, like, oh, that's a pretty color on you, or I'm really glad to meet you, and I'd like to get to know you better. And before she even left the church, she was having demonstration after demonstration. And so the article, Leave Me Alone, was like, oh, her inner voice was leave me alone because I'm alone in this big city and I don't like it, but that's the way it is or has to be. So the articles were good. What is Mysticism was a really good reminder of just basics about what mysticism is or can be and how we view the mystics, as metaphysicians. But what we are going to focus on is on page 83. And just give me a minute. Let me switch to page 83 and make it so you can see it when I share it. Let's fit visible content. Ooh, yeah. And in 1986, 50 years ago, August 22nd was a Sunday instead of a Saturday. And the title of the devotion or the daily guide for August 22nd was The Great Example. The Great Example. And the scripture for that day was for as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. Right. So if you are led by the spirit and the intention and the infinite intelligence of God, you are actually a representative of God. And that's from the Bible, uh, the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 14. The Science of Mind quote, to the realization that God is personal to all who are receptive to the divine influx, enables one to communicate with the spirit, receiving a direct answer from it. And if you are familiar at all with the declarations of principles or with Science of Mind in a number of cases, a number of places, Ernest Holmes does remind us that there is an individualized connection, that God is personal to all, and each one of us can be a revealer of truth, meaning the truth comes to us and through us, and that is applying to everyone based upon our receptivity, our belief, and our actions. And then the third quote was a Raymond Charles Barker quote, God never specialized anyone, but anyone can specialize God. And the idea that God was what Jesus specialized in, understanding spiritual principle, understanding spiritual principle, understanding the truth, capital T truth, and then living it. So, in New Thought in general, we do talk about Jesus being the example, not the exception. So, this Barker quote really reminds us that what we choose to specialize in, and if we choose to specialize in um, in God, in spirit, in infinite intelligence, in universal spiritual principles, that we have a different experience of life that reflects that. Good morning, Liz, and a stack of really old Science of My magazines. When I when I moved a couple of years ago, one of the most difficult things for me to do was to part with a whole bookshelf full of Science of Mind magazines. And so it is a gift to be able to have those in your home to just respond to or to be inspired by. So good for you. And good morning to you as well, Lalana. So we're looking at the message from August 22nd, 1976, 50 years ago today. And if you are familiar with Science of Magazine, as Liz is, then you already know that in every month's issue, there is a devotion written for every day of the month, each month. And so I just thought it would be a really interesting thing to look back 50 years ago today and see what the message was. And does that message from 50 years ago have for us today? Now, one of the things that I found really interesting is in 21st century science of mind, the science of mind itself has not changed, right? These are universal spiritual principles. But one thing that does seem to be different is that there is less reference within Centers for Spiritual Living to Bible scripture and even to the use of the word God versus spirit or love or some other adjective. And so if you are someone who is a little allergic to the more Christian-based terminology that Ernest Holmes used throughout Science of Mind, then I am going to just warn you that in this particular devotion, there is a lot of that kind of language. And as students of truth, as it begins, we get to translate that or interpret it from a metaphysical perspective. So it begins like this. Let me make it where you may be able to see it better. As students of truth, we know that the realization of oneness with God is our ultimate goal, right? The realization of oneness with God is our ultimate goal. Now, I'm going to stop right there because just that sentence alone, we could spend the next 45 minutes on what does that mean in general and what does that mean to each one of us personally. But as students of truth, we know that the realization of oneness with God is our ultimate goal. Now, I also want to stop there because it seems to me that a lot of people get oneness confused with sameness, and they're applying oneness as a principle that is saying all of us are alike because we have been created by the same source. And so the oneness they are thinking about is oneness between two or more human beings. But the true definition of oneness in New Thought in general and in Science of Mind specifically is about oneness with the source of life that created each one of us. That each one of us are experiencing or can experience oneness with the Creator, oneness with God, oneness with the principles or the attributes of God, and oneness meaning that there is no separation between me and God. So the journey, whenever we say oneness, is about my individual oneness with God. Now, the fact that you have an individualized oneness with God and the next person has oneness with the Creator, and every 8 billion people and literally all of creation. But let's talk about people for now. Over 8 billion people cannot be separated from the one that created it. And because we've all been created by the same source, then yes, you and I have a connection through the same source. But oneness does not mean that we are the same as each one, because another foundational teaching is each one has been created as a unique expression of the one. Okay, so that's the mini lecture you didn't ask for about oneness, but I'm glad that that's in the very first sentence. And welcome, Robin. Good morning. Thank you for this talk. I attend the Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley in Southern Oregon. Yay, we love Rogue Valley. And a welcome. And Wayne reminds us that love is the creative force of the universe. And I love that because it is so important, right, to recognize that love is that the self-givingness of God is how Ernest Holmes defines love. Love is, in fact, right, the givingness of God into life or into form. And so when we say we are one with that, we're also recognizing that love is what is the source of the creative process. Shay, how can I use my realization of oneness with my creator to create more of a perception of safety? I'm so glad you used that word, Shay, perception, because truly, right, we are living and walking around and perceiving, right, living based on what we believe, right? What I believe is what I achieve or what I experience. And so it's all perception on this end, and knowing that the source is infinite and absolute. It's not about perception. And so when I realize that I am one with my creator, one way, there are a dozen ways that you can think about it, but one way to think about it is this. If all of the qualities of God are innate within me and or I have access to them because there's no separation, then I have the wisdom I need to have in order to navigate whatever is going on in my human experience, right? And so I know, I will know what to do, when to do, how to do it, and why. And so there's no reason to fear or to allow fear to define my actions, because the wisdom of God is my wisdom too. So if it's a perception of, if the perception is I'm not safe and it's because I'm confused or I don't know what to do, etc., that's, I would tap into wisdom. If my sense of not being safe is because I don't have what I basically need to survive, I don't have access to food or money or the things that I need to clothe my body, feed my body, and have safe shelter, then, that's a different kind of safety. Or if I feel like I'm potentially exposed to being physically harmed, wisdom works for that as well. I'll know what to do, or I have all the resources available. But love often is another one to go to ground yourself in. The love of God surrounds me. The unity prayer of protection, right? I'm not going to do the whole thing, but there are a couple of excerpts from that, right? That, oh, because that which created me loves me, then there's nowhere I can go where I am not safe, or that I don't have availability to go to or get to safety, so that the human threat is not given more power than the spiritual truth or the oneness, because God is with me at all times and will never abandon me. So, yeah, that maybe the next time I come on, maybe that would be the whole focus. Go to find something that has been written and saved in the archives that is about safety, psychological and physical, mental, physical, and emotional safety. So that's a really great question. And can always count on Wayne for putting it into one sentence or two very short statements. This is such a great affirmation. I am one with the force. The force is with me, right? I am one with God. God is with me. I am one with the Creator. The Creator is with me. And having some quick affirmations that really like connect and bring me out of fear quickly are really helpful as well. So let's go back to, since I only got through the first sentence, right? As students of truth, we know that the realization, right? The realization of it, not the thinking about it, but the experience of it, the understanding of it, the belief in oneness with God is our ultimate goal. But we have an example to follow in this endeavor, a gauge by which to measure our progress. Indeed, we do, and that gauge may be found in the lessons left by that magnificent Son of God, Jesus the Christ. It is from him we know that we too are meant to experience and enjoy the fruits of the inner kingdom. It is from Jesus' teachings that we are assured of our divine heritage as sons and daughters of the only Father. And so Ernest Holmes in this or in this devotion is the reminder that Ernest Holmes teaches us that we are direct descendants of that which created not only us but all of life, and that there is an example that we can look to whenever we are doubting or whenever we are unsure, because Jesus already demonstrated that it is possible to be completely guided by the spiritual truth. Next paragraph, speaking again about Jesus, his gifts of wisdom were clearly and simply stated. We are to love God with all our being and to concentrate our energies on acquiring spiritual balance. We are to see and love God in one another. We are to put aside the degenerative acids of hatred, resentment, and unforgiveness. And we are to know we are now living a life sustained by God, which will never end. With such a marvelous blueprint to follow, should we waste time in indulging ourselves in human pettiness? Let us be about the business of exemplifying our true sonship. I want to read these sentences once more. If I can do that. Okay, I can't highlight them without getting a side message, so we won't highlight them. We will just read them again. We are to see and love God in one another. Okay. We go to the sentence before that. We are to love God with all our being and to concentrate our energies on acquiring spiritual balance. In the last couple of decades, there's been so much psychology talk around work life balance. And as a licensed practitioner, one of the things I say to clients often is it's great to seek balance between work and life, but do you understand that the real balance you want is to be working and living in in alignment with spiritual principle? You're not going to be as stressed. You are going to make better decisions. And so I am known for saying what I help clients do is identify and design a life that allows them to look at their mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and financial priorities and have all of that work together. And really, the big part of it is the spiritual grounding that allows you to navigate everything else. So, we are to love God with all our being and to concentrate our energies on acquiring spiritual balance. Number two, we are to see and love God in one another, in other people, in the people you work with, in the people you're in a meeting with. Do you see the God in them? Do you look for that? Even when they're driving you crazy, do you realize that is a godling over here that has that opinion that doesn't resonate with me? And it's okay. You're not supposed to agree all the time, and people make mistakes and all of that. But are you mean and nasty to them? Or are you focused on whatever it is you're trying to resolve without denigrating them, without making them a bad person? Maybe they did a bad thing. So that number two, we are to see and love God in one another. Number three, we are to put aside the acids of hatred, resentment, and unforgiveness. If you're resenting someone or something that someone did, you need to come back to the great example set by the Christ, by Jesus, grounded in Christ consciousness. And then I love that the hatred, resentment, and unforgiveness are labeled as degenerative acids, right? That tear or ruin the foundation and the fabric of whatever they are poured upon, and they degenerate the health or the wholeness of whatever an acid is poured upon. And then finally, we are to know we are now, right now, living a life sustained by God. Yes. And so we know this, but are we doing it? We know this, but are we doing it? That is why I love that we come together every Saturday morning and just get a little reminder of what the teachings are of within Science of Mind. I often, almost every day, look at the cover of the Science of Mind textbook because, of course, I use mine every day, but then I also have another one on display in my living room. And it's there, and I pick it up, at random, not when I'm necessarily doing my daily spiritual practice, but I walk by it, pretty much every day and notice it. Science of Mind. And it is a faith, it is a philosophy, and it is a way of life. All three of those things. And so when we come together every Saturday morning or every Saturday, or maybe you're watching a recording of this on another day of the week, I encourage you to really make it a pattern, make it a habit to at least once a week tap into this or something like it that gives you a chance to recall, oh, yes, oh, yeah, that is what we teach. And this message today, titled The Great Example, really, of course, it is reminding us that Jesus was the great example, not the great exception. And if we pay attention to the stories told about Jesus in the Bible or in the Science of Mind textbook, that what has already been exampled for us is making choices, having conversations, and prioritizing your life, allowing Christ consciousness to guide us in how we behave, what we choose to do, how we engage with other people. It's really simple, even though it may not be easy, right? And so, again, in this particular article, we do have the opportunity to be reminded of that. And if you want to read the whole article again, or the devotional for message for August 22nd, 1976, or go through the entire magazine, then you can download a copy of it in um, from the Science of Mind archives. And let me see if I can drop the link in for you. Ooh, I am not seeing it right now because I've already pulled up the PDF file. So I'm giving myself 10 seconds to find it for you because I know it may be difficult for you on the screen. So here you go. It is the August 1976 issue of the Science of Mind magazine. There. So, of course, you can simply go to scienceofmindarchives.com, right? And you could do a search for it, but I have put the link in the chat for you as well, in case that is helpful. So, how does this devotion, this guide for August 22nd, 1976, how does it end, right? Because I just took you through some of the writing, but not all the way to the end. So let's look at the very last part of it. This is a pretty long affirmation, and when you're using the magazine, that works because you're reading it and you can read it several times. So let's read it together twice. The Father and I are one. I, like Jesus, am a true child of God. All of the love, substance, and protection of the universal presence are mine. Through prayer and concentration upon the qualities of God, I am lifted to that crystal clear state of cosmic consciousness. I accept all the goodness of the inner spiritual kingdom, and I know that everything I need for a good life is added to me now. One more time. The Father and I are one. I, like Jesus, am a true child of God. All the love, all the substance, and all the protection of the universal presence are mine. Through prayer and through concentration upon the qualities of God, I am lifted to that crystal clear state of cosmic consciousness. I accept all the goodness of the inner spiritual kingdom, and I know that everything I need for a good life is added to me now. Ooh, I hope you could feel that the way that I feel it. Like, okay, Shay, the question about oneness and safety. So we don't usually put into our affirmations or into our spiritual mind treatments or affirmative prayers the experience that we want to change. And so it would be tempting to have an affirmation that says, I am safe, but safe and safety are too conflated in our human brain. And so I love that, using an affirmation that is like, oh, I have all the protection of the universal presence. It's mine, right? The protection of the universal presence is mine. If that's true, then there is no way that I can feel unsafe, right? And so it may seem a little counterintuitive, but it's why we shape our affirmations the way that we do. And Liz made a comment that the last part of this, missing the prayer for protection, it's one of the pieces or the affirmation, a series of 5 affirmations that's used in the Unity Church. And it's the same principle, right? That I am protected versus I have to remove fear or I might not be safe. So the language we use really does matter. And the more we use it over time, right? We know already, we've talked about this a lot, that affirmations are not changing God. Affirmations are reprogramming our own brain and conscious and subconscious brain so that our default thinking supports what we want to experience instead of defaulting to the experience that doesn't serve us or doesn't help us live our best life. So ending with this affirmation on this in this devotion is really powerful because the devotion itself has reminded us that all the qualities of God are in every one of us, that we already have an example of how to put those qualities to work if we look at the example set by Jesus, that Jesus was simply exhibiting Christ consciousness, and that all of us have access to that same consciousness, but it is up to us to use it. And then the affirmations are before the affirmations reminding us of what that looks like in the way that we live and engage with other people, in that paragraph of telling us what to do, right? To love God with all our being and to concentrate our energies on acquiring spiritual balance, to see and love God in each other and other people, put aside the degenerative acids of hatred, resentment, and unforgiveness, and know we are living a life sustained by God, and that life never ends. Right? In Science of Mind, we teach the eternality, immortality, and continuity of each human soul. And so this body that we are in does not define our entire life. It simply affects and influences the way that we live our life as long as we're in this body. So we've got the blueprint, and then we've got these really great affirmations to apply. And that is the guide for living spiritually from 50 years ago today, August 22nd, 1976. So this is what we do in the Science of Mind and Spirit Saturday morning conversations. We have a conversation, and I really appreciate your saying hello in the chat or the comments that you have added or the questions that you have asked. It's been really great to hang out with you for a little while, and I wanted to encourage you to join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Time for another chance to dive a little more deeply and to really commit to embodying these principles of the science of mind every single day. It's simple, but it's not always easy. And that's why we come together to support each other in our commitments to doing that. So be back next Saturday for another chance to dive into something from the archives. And you don't have to wait till next Saturday. You can visit the archives anytime and find more things for you to explore. You also don't have to go to the archives. You can simply go to the show archives on YouTube and watch past episodes or catch up on the most recent episodes. I hope that you are enjoying our programming on the New Thought Media Network. So please go to ntmedia.org and click on donate. That is all of our time together today. Again, my name is Dr. Tracy Brown, and I am so glad you joined us. I'll see you again real soon.
Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk. Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.